Welcome to Go Again Gaming, brought to you by the Card Vault, Patreon, and GoAgainGaming.com. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel. So hello, welcome back to Go Again Gaming and welcome to the new stream layout. I think it looks absolutely awesome and I hope you enjoyed the new intro. So yeah, today we're going to be speaking about the borders on the cards, speculations behind what it means and the future and any insights that those borders might entail or what we might come to expect. And just discussing some cool stuff and some art on the cards themselves. So before we go into it, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit a little bell notification if you do want to be notified of any future videos. And if you want to help support me directly, go and check out the links in the description box below. I have a discount with the Card Vault for sealed products and Ultra Pro accessories. I also have a affiliate link to Patreon as well, so if you want to help support me directly, that'll be the best way to do it. And if you go to GoAgainGaming.com, you can pick up exclusive and alternate and unique playmats based on the world of Wraith. So yeah, we're going to be speaking about the borders of the cards that we've got at the moment, and speaking about the speculations and insights and potential hints to what we might get in the future. And I have a couple of theories as well, which might have been discussed before, but this is the first time I've sort of come across it. So yeah, let's head over to the screen share now so you can see what I'm looking at. So obviously it all started with the Era welcome deck, but we'll get into this a little bit more later. Yeah, it all started with the Era welcome deck, and as you can see, Era is a ninja, and she has this particular border here, which is like a sort of mysterious sort of blue mist, as you can see. So that's what the border that she's got. So it all started back with the Era welcome deck, but we're going to go straight into the Welcome to Wraith Unlimited set, or the Welcome to Wraith set. So this included 4 heroes. We had Rhinar, the Reckless Rampage. So as you can see, his border is like a sort of foresty border with a couple of skulls hidden in there. Look, as you can see, little skulls hanging around. So obviously it just definitely sort of hints to his nature, his brutish nature, taking skulls and trophies and what have you. So that's quite cool. We had the Guardian. I think the Guardian is the next one down. Yep. So we had Bravo, the Showstopper. His sort of border was very sort of multicoloured and quite sort of ecstatic. Probably not the right word to use. Yeah, quite a nice little multicoloured border. Very, very vibrant. And goes hand in hand with Bravo and his sort of personality, which I think is quite cool. Then we had Katsu, the Wanderer. So going back to the Era welcome deck. So if we go back to Era, as we can see here, we got Era and Katsu, both of which have the same border. So obviously we got Hero Ninja for Era, and we got Hero or Ninja Hero for Katsu. And both of them, because they're ninjas, you'd expect them both to have the same background or the same border, and they do in this particular case. So Era is a Hero Ninja, and Katsu is a Ninja Hero, both of which have the sort of misty background there, which I think is quite cool. So yeah, we'll see a lot more of that as time goes on. So we got Era and Katsu both sharing the same background, which is why I thought I'd leave Era until now, just to show you that. So yeah, we got Katsu, Ninja, and if we scroll down a little bit more, we have Dorinthia, the Warrior. This is what Dorinthia's one looks like. So this is like more of an elegant, sort of goldy, sort of metallic looking background for the character. This is for the Warrior hero, or is it? We will see. Yeah, nice little border there for that. Dorinthia Ironsong. But as we can see, if we scroll all the way back up to the Brute border for Rhinar, as you can see, this is the border. But if you look at the actual Brute cards themselves, it is this border, like a sort of spiked club, or a spiked sort of club there, as you can see. So even though Rhinar has this border for like a foresty, sort of brutish skulls in the leaves sort of border, his Brute cards actually have this club as you can see. So I wonder why that is. Yeah? Wonder why that is. And if we scroll down again, this is the same thing for pretty much all the heroes. So we've got Bravo there. We've got this sort of multicoloured border. But if you look at his Guardian cards, the Guardian actions are this like sort of stone. This stone border. Like a pillar almost. Pillar made out of stone. So there's no correlation there really, is there, between Bravo's border and Bravo's action cards. So why is that? If we go down again, we've got Katsu, which has the same as Aria, has the sort of misty hero border. But then if we look at the actual ninja cards that you need to use to fuel the attacks, it's this sort of weird katana handle type border, as you can see. So what do the borders represent? That is one of the questions that comes up, is what do these borders represent? Because the characters themselves have a unique border to the cards that they're actually using. Or do they? We'll see more. So yeah, if we go back to the screen share, going back to Katsu here, you can see that obviously Katsu has these ninja actions that are different borders for the ninja cards, which is interesting. And then if we go down to Dorinthia, Dorinthia has this sort of gold metallic border, whereas the cards in for Warrior do have this sort of border, which is more of like a hilt or a handle of a sword, which is interesting because also Dorinthia has these other cards as well, like Steelblade Supremacy, which is a Dorinthia specialization card, but it has this gold border, which doesn't make sense when we get to a later point. So yeah, at the moment we've found out that a lot of the heroes do have unique borders. None of them share the border, apart from Katsu and Aria. They both share, because they're ninjas, or is it, the same border. They've got misty borders there, as you can see. So is that because they're both ninjas? Or is that because something else we might get to later? So yeah, we've got ninja. And if we just scroll down the list here as well, we'll be able to see that generic cards and obviously equipment cards all have the same sort of background. They have this background here, unless of course it's a legendary. You will get like sort of gold tint on these cards, but most of them, the equipments will look like this. All look quite fairly similar. But the generic cards have this border, this type of border, and those will all be the same. All those generic cards will be the same, as you can see. So that was the first set. We had Rhinar with the sort of foresty sort of skulls in the leaves border. We had Guardian, which had like a multicolored stained glass window type aura. Then we had Katsu the Wanderer, which had the same border as Aria, because Aria is a ninja as well. And then if we go scroll down the list, we had Dorinthia, which had the metallic gold sort of border. And then we have the generic cards as well. So if we move on now to Arcane Rising, which is the next set that was released. If we go to Arcane Rising, we have Mechanologist as the first hero in this particular set. And this is Dash Inventor Extraordinaire. So if we take the same principle and have a look at her cards, this is where stuff starts to get interesting. So if we go back to the Brute, for instance, the Brute had a unique border to the Brute, correct? But the Brute cards, apart from the specialization cards, had a different border. As you can see, they had this spiked club. Whereas if we go to Dash's cards, Dash has this obviously Mechanologist sort of style steampunky border. But if you look at the actual Mechanologist cards, even the ones that aren't Dash specializations, they also have the same border, which is very, very strange. Because normally, if we go back to another example, like this one, Bravo has a unique border for the Guardian hero, But then if you look at the Guardian cards, they're sort of stone work. So why is that? Why is it that Dash, as a Mechanologist hero, which is a new hero to Arcane Rising back in the day, why is it that Dash has the same border on her cards? Very strange, very bizarre. And we don't have any more of these. We do have another mech hero, which we will get to in a moment, but why is that? I do have a theory, which we'll get to later when we get to the other Mechanologist hero. So yeah, we had Dash as a Mechanologist hero, but all of the Dash cards are the same border as Dash herself, which is interesting because that hasn't happened so far on this discussion. So let's go down to the next hero, which is Azalea the Ranger. So again, another unique border. We've got some sort of like weird sort of graffiti, dark and dingy barbed wire. We've got like a in the top right corner here. We've got like a fuel drum, almost sort of leaking green fluid, and then we've got green fluid hanging around down here as well and dripping down onto her life total. So dark and dingy and disgusting sort of style looking. And as you can see here, she's in a very dark and dingy environment as well. So that is for the Ranger. And again, the Ranger is again similar to the other classes that we had a look at, where you have the Ranger hero, as you can see here, Ranger hero, but the border is different. But if we look at the actual Ranger cards, the Ranger border is this sort of green thing with an arrow going through it. So again, Dash is the odd one out in this scenario. So if we go back to Dash again, Dash's hero has this sort of steampunky border, but Dash's cards still have the same border. So what that says to me is that the Mechanologist class is actually a talent. Now we'll get onto talents a little bit later, so hold that thought. But yeah, going back to the Ranger obviously has this sort of dark and dingy border, and then we go onto the Ranger cards, and it's just like an arrow going through some metallic objects there. So very, very interesting, right? So let's go down a little bit further, and we have my favourite character, and obviously what my whole channel is pretty much modelled on nowadays, and obviously the purple hues and that, but that is Viserai Runeblood, the first Runeblade hero ever to be released. And Viserai, as you can see, has this sort of crystalline, sort of dark purple-ish, metallic sort of gargoyle looking border, which I think is very, very cool. And again, this is the first time we've seen this border on a character until later. So again, we've got a unique border for this Runeblade hero, but the Runeblade cards themselves are this sort of weird crystalline sword blade thing, as you can see. So again, we have another character that is doing what the other characters are doing, but not what Dash is doing. So again, going into my argument, you probably, if you're watching this sort of content, you know what a talent is, right? So if we go back up to Dash, Dash's card is obviously borders in steampunk stuff, but all of Dash's cards are steampunk things as well. So does that mean that the Mechanologist is a talent? Because obviously we'll be going back to metrics in the future, so maybe there's more talented or different talents in metrics, or different classes in metrics that will use different borders potentially. We will see. Yep. So going back down to Viserai, obviously Viserai again, standard hero, has the sort of crystalline own sort of unique border, but with obviously the Runeblade cards being different borders. Interesting. And if we scroll down a little bit further, we have the Wizard. So Kano Drakai of Aether, again, a unique border that we've got here. This is sort of like a volcanic, lava-esque sort of border. But if we then go to the Wizard cards themselves, they are completely different borders. It's like a staff, almost, with like lightning coming out of it. Great card, by the way, Fort Lightning. But yeah, look at the borders on these. Completely different to the volcanic feel of Kano. So that's very interesting, isn't it? Again, another character that cares about having a unique border for the unique class, but then the class cards within it are different borders. Why is that? Interesting. So yeah, that's the Arcane Rising set, and of course if we scroll down here, we have more generic cards. Again, as we said, if it's a legendary equipment, it has the same sort of border but of a goldish tint, and obviously the common stuff has the same sort of equipment style borders as before. So the next set we're going to go into, recently had a reprint, and that is Crucible of War. Now this is where things take another turn with regards to what we can come to expect potentially and what insights LSS might be giving us in these card arts. So let's go over to the Crucible of War Unlimited page. So here we go, Crucible of War Unlimited. This was basically a way of injecting the older classes with more cards, more good stuff that they could use, and more heroes were added to this set as well, and some very, very interesting border choices as well on these classes, which we'll see in a moment. So first of all, we're getting up Rhinar Reckless Rampage, and we have a new brute in KO Berserker Runt. So if we click these, look, we've got Rhinar Reckless Rampage as a brute hero, and then we also have KO Berserker Runt as a brute hero. Young version, because obviously a lot of these characters were introduced for blitz purposes only, or ultimate pit fight, more likely. So yeah, KO Berserker Runt is a brute hero, but he has the same background as Rhinar. So we've got Rhinar here and KO. So we've got Rhinar and KO, both of which have exactly the same background, which makes sense because they're brutes. They have the same background, right? Right? We will see. So yeah, we got those two, Brute and Rhinar and KO. So let's go back to this, and yeah, obviously we've got the Brute cards again. As we said before, the actual Brute class cards are this club border, which is interesting. So if we scroll down a little bit further, everything seems to be in order for Brutes. And then we have the Guardian cards. So there's nothing really new here. We got Bravo. No more Guardians were added as a part of this set. We got obviously some new weapons, new majestic equipments, and so on. But as we discussed before, the Bravo character border is a lot different. As you can see, it's like a rainbow stained glass to obviously the actual Guardian cards here, which are sort of stone work. So yeah, very different. But nothing to add to Guardian during this set of regards to the borders. So if we go back down a little bit further, we have ninjas. So more ninja stuff being added to this set, and obviously in this set we have Katsu the Wanderer, we have Era Crimson Haze with the same border, and then we have a new ninja with Benji the Piercing Wind. So all of these ninjas still have the same border, which is interesting, isn't it? So all of these ninjas have the same border, which is thematic. Ninjas should all have the same sort of border, shouldn't they? So yeah, we got all of those, and obviously we had some new cards added, and of course, going back to the old point, all of the ninja cards, albeit the character cards have this weird mist surrounding them, the actual ninja cards have this weird sort of katana handle type border. So very, very interesting. So if we go back onto, if we scroll down here, nothing is out of order with the ninjas. So let's keep going. And then we have Warrior, we have Dorinthia in her gold border, as we saw earlier. And then we have Kasai, Centauri Sellsword, in the same border as Kano. What on earth is going on? Let me just go back there to that Arcane Rising. Let's get up Kano. And there he is. There's Kano. And there's Kasai. So how does that work? How does that work then? So we've got Kano, the wizard hero, with this volcanic border background. But then we go into Kasai, who is a warrior hero young, but she has the same border as Kano. Why is that? Why is that? I have a theory, but let's carry on for now. Kano and Kasai both have the same border, even though they're different classes. Interesting. Let's get rid of this. Go back to Crucible of War. So yeah, in the warrior section we have that new development with regards to Kasai and Kano sharing the same border. But then of course if we go down as well, we'll have the standard warrior borders here, so warrior attack reaction, which can be used by all warriors, including Kasai, even though the border is different. And obviously we have the sort of sword hilt border for the classic warrior cards. So let's carry on going down. Next we have a Shapeshifter. What on earth is going on here? So this is a new hero, Shiana Diamond Gemini, and this is obviously a chase rare of the set because it's a legendary, and it can basically just copy any hero on the battlefield. So I guess it basically means that in an ultimate pit fight game, you can copy any hero and have any specialization cards in your deck. But this card also looks similar to Dorinthia. So if we go back to Dorinthia, the warrior, if we look at her border and look at the Shiana border, it looks pretty similar. So why is that? Why is that? Why do we have a Shapeshifter hero that has the same sort of border as Dorinthia, but it's a different colour? So if we just switch between them both, it's a different colour, isn't it? This one's more of a silvery sort of teal. Not teal, it's more like a blue. I don't know what the colour is actually, to be honest, like a sapphire sort of colour. But if you look at the borders, they are exactly the same, just different shadings, different colourings. So is Shiana just Dorinthia in disguise? Interesting, huh? So let's go back to Crucible of War. And now we have the Mechanologist. So going back to Dash, so obviously Dash was an oddball with regards to the class cards and the action cards being the same. It's the same with this new hero, Data Doll, was added. And this is a Mechanologist young hero with the first hero with 3 intellect, actually. And it says, well, there's no point reading out the rules, we're not talking about the rules. But yeah, as we can see here, the border is exactly the same as Dash. And this is a Mechanologist hero as well. But if you obviously look down the list here, all of the new Mechanologist cards have the same border again as the actual heroes themselves. So again, that goes into the argument as to whether these Mechanologist heroes are actually a talent within their sort of retrospective areas, which we'll get onto in a moment. So yeah, let's carry on going down the list. So all of these Mechanologist cards are exactly the same border as the heroes themselves. Interesting, huh? And next we have a Merchant. What on earth? So this is Kavdayan, Trader of Skins from Crucible of War. And if you haven't noticed already, Kavdayan actually shares the same border as our friend Azalea. So what is going on there? So we have Azalea, ace in the hole, with these sort of putrid borders. And we have Kavdayan, Trader of Skins, with the putrid borders. So what is that about? And you can see here as well that obviously Kavdayan is in a sort of dark and dingy environment as well. It's the same as Azalea. Dark and dingy and horrible looking, disgusting looking. So what is going on there? We've got a Ranger and we've got a Merchant, but they have the same border. So, if you're following along, what this basically means, or what I think it means, is that these characters, like Kavdayan and Azalea, I don't know why I closed it, I could have just left it up. So Kavdayan and Azalea, although they're different classes, they're probably from the same area, or the same sort of lore area in Wraith. So obviously Azalea is from the pits, which is, I think, is like the sort of dregs and all of the disgustingness beneath metrics, I believe, or it could just be a completely separate zone entirely. I need to start reading up on the lore again, really. But what the sort of idea is, and what I think people have probably found this out already or done more deep dives on this than me, but I thought I'd release a video on it because I just found out about it earlier today. I just thought, oh, I'll make a video on this because it's quite interesting. So yeah, I think Azalea and Kavdayan are from the same area of the world of Wraith. So I think going back to the borders on the characters, I think it's down to where they are from in the world, I think. Yeah, I think that's probably what it's going to be. So we've got Kavdayan and Azalea both with the same border. So if we carry on going down, obviously we've got Azalea there again, and we've got some more Ranger cards which have the different background, which is interesting. And there's no merchant cards, by the way, that have been released yet. I'm sure you know that anyway. So yeah, if we carry on going down, we've got Runeblade, and again the Runeblade is exactly the same. There's nothing new to report here. We've got Viserai Runeblood with the same background as before, same border as before, and obviously the Runeblade cards are the same as before as well. So nothing new there with regards to that. Wizard, again exactly the same. We've got Kano with the sort of volcanic background, same as Kasai, and we've got the Wizard cards here as well with the Wizard borders, which are different to the character itself. And obviously we have also the generic cards as well with no sort of changes there. So the next set is Monarch Unlimited. And this is the first set that introduced sort of talents. Now, talents and dual classes. So in this set, it was all about sort of light versus dark. So we've got some light characters and some shadow characters. And not only that, but we have classes as well. So we have the light and shadow part and the class part as well. So if we look at Prism, the first one, this is a light illusionist. So it's the first illusionist we've ever had, but it has light in front of it. So if we look at Prism's border, does that ring any bells? It definitely does. It's Dorinthia's border. It's the same one as Dorinthia's border, but in a goldy sort of colour instead. So we've got this one, which is gold, and this one, which is sort of more of a bronzy sort of colour, or the sort of lighter gold rather than a yellowy gold. So yeah, it looks like that Dorinthia and Prism, and I think they are as well. I think they are part of the lore. I think they are part of the same area. I think it is part of Solana, because obviously the Great Library of Solana and that is in there, isn't it? Obviously Prism is. I haven't read the lore. Go and check out other channels for that. But yeah, it looks like the borders are basically just representing where that character is from in Wraith, and it makes sense for Prism and Dorinthia to be part of the same sort of area because they're both warriors for light, or fighting for the light side. So yeah, interesting. Prism, Sculptor of Arclight. Oh, that's the next set. So yeah, as we can see here, Prism has that same border as Dorinthia, just a different shade of colour. But the Illusionist cards, or the Light Illusionist cards, are different again. So it goes on to that previous point with regards to Dash's cards. Is Mechanologist just a talent within Metrics? So when we go back to Metrics, is there going to be different classes or different characters with different borders? Because the Mechanologist only has the one border at the moment for the hero itself and the action cards behind it. Whereas all of the other heroes have their unique border to potentially their locale in the world, and the cards, the class cards which support that hero are different to the actual borders, which is interesting. So yeah, we've got that. Obviously the Light Illusionist cards are different to Prism herself. So let's go down again to Light Warrior. Now again, Light Warrior, Sir Boltin, the Breaker of Dawn, is very similar to Dorinthia, or exactly the same, or Prism. So all of these light characters are going to be from the world of, or the sort of locale of Solana, the ones that are fighting the light, the light fighting the shadow. These are all going to be part of the same area. So that goes back into that sort of theory. So yeah, go back to Monarch. Obviously, the Boltin is a light warrior, so he has access to both light cards and warrior cards. And as you can see here, the light warrior cards are similar to the warrior cards, but they have a little bit of more of a lighter tinge. So as you can see here, we've got Rout, which is a normal warrior card, and then we've got Bolting Blade. So as you can see between the two, Rout and Bolting Blade is much lighter because it's a light warrior card instead. Dorinthia, Rout, Monarch. So yeah, interesting. So going down here, we've got light cards, and light cards just look exactly the same border as Prism. So if we look at these, Celestial Cataclysm is a light card. If we go back to Prism at the top, it's exactly the same shading. Exactly the same shading for that. Which is interesting because the light cards must represent that sort of Solana Hand of Soul lore segment. You know, the ones that are fighting for the light must represent Solana as a place, I think. So the borders being, you know, representative of a place in the world is a very, very big theory, and there's a lot of evidence here to support that as well, I think. So yeah, that's that. So if we go back down to where we were before, we had the light cards. So all of those light cards were the same as Boltin and Prism. Then we have the Illusionist cards, which are, again, different. They have a blue-purpley sort of tinge, whereas the actual characters that can use the Illusionist cards has a different border, and the cards that she can also use is Illusionist, but with a light on it. As you can see, you've got Normal Illusionist and Light Illusionist. Normal Illusionist, Light Illusionist. So that just confuses things even further. So this also goes to confirm, potentially, that LSS are already thinking about having another Illusionist in the future if they're printing Illusionist cards that are separate to the Light Illusionist cards. So I thought in my Tales of Aria predictions that we would see an Illusionist in the Tales of Aria set. I was very, very wrong, but this goes to show that there probably are plans in the future to have more Illusionists. We will see. Let's go back to Monarch Unlimited. So yeah, the Illusionist cards there are very, very similar in nature to the Light Illusionist, but again, different colour. So it could give us a hint that that we could see more Illusionists in the future, because we have a generic Illusionist, not a Light Illusionist, but a generic Illusionist. So yeah. Going down to the Warrior cards, we've got all the Warrior cards that were added. We've got the new class called Shadow Brute. So this is an interesting one again. So if we look at Levia's card, where have we seen that before? That's right, we saw that on Viserai. So if we go back to Viserai, Viserai's card has the same border as Levia's card. So the sort of dark, demonic, demonistry-esque characters will probably have the same border, and we can go straight down as well to another character which was released in this set, and that is Chain, bound by Shadow. You can see there that Chain also has the same border. So this is a very, very strange one, because we have 3 characters with the same border, but all of which are different classes. Well, you say that, but one of them is a normal Runeblade, which we found first. Then we have a Shadow Brute with the same border, and then we have a Shadow Runeblade with the same border. So all of these characters have the same border, but they're all different classes, which is very, very interesting. So again, that says to me that these characters are the dark, they're the sort of demonic entities, and they're the ones that are dwelling and sort of spending a lot of their time in the demonistry with the dark arts. So it makes sense that all of these characters are from the demonistry or have been involved with the arcane arts from the demonistry, because they're the ones drawing their power from dark entities. So although they are all different with regards to their talents and their classes, they are all tied by the same border, which is interesting. So when we go back to the demonistry, they'll probably use this same border, but they can change the classes or the talents, but they'll still have the same border, which goes into the theory that the borders are basically just representing where the character is from in the world of Flesh and Blood. So it's cool. It's cool stuff. So yeah, we skipped past Levia here. So we go back to Levia. If we look at Levia's class, she is a Shadow Brute, and obviously with that becomes a new pool of cards, the Shadow Brute cards. So as we can see here, the Shadow Brute cards are very similar in nature to Reinar's cards. So if we scroll back up to Reinar, The generic brute cards, as you can see, have this sort of spiked club, whereas the shadow brute cards have a spiked club, but with these sort of weird alien eyes and tentacles wrapped around them. So yeah, very, very similar, but different. So Rhinar can't use these cards, but Levia can still use the generic brute cards, which is interesting. So will we see more shadow brutes? Who knows? The border is different though, so it's interesting, isn't it? So yeah, we've got that. And if we go down a little bit further, we've got the Shadow Runeblade, and obviously we've got the Shadow Runeblade card, which is basically the same as a Runeblade card, just a darker border. So there's the standard Runeblade card, and there is the Shadow Runeblade card. So with all of these sort of dual classes being added, we're getting more pools for that class. So because normal Runeblades can't use Shadow Aversa, obviously. So it's interesting. So they've basically just created new classes by adding more words on, which is interesting. So yeah, if we go down a little bit further, we've got the shadow cards here. So yeah, again, it goes into the fact that obviously all the shadow cards have the same border as the shadow heroes. So the shadow heroes have the same border as the actual shadow cards, which goes again into the shadow being the demonastery, where all the dark stuff comes from in Flesh and Blood. That is why they're represented by the shadow with the shadow border. Interesting. So yeah, let's keep going down. And then we have the again, we had more additions to the brute class. So obviously any brutes can use these, and of course they have the same border. We had more additions to the Runeblade class. We had more additions to generic. Obviously the generic will stay exactly the same. There's no difference there. So that is all of that. So the takeaways from that is that obviously the light heroes have the same border as what was originally printed on Dorinthia's card, but a different shade, which is interesting. And then if we go into the newest set, Tales of Aria, what does this remind you of? Have we seen this before? Yes, we have in the original set. We saw it with Bravo, the showstopper. Exactly the same. So we've got a Guardian hero here, just a standard Guardian hero, which I hate playing against, by the way. And then we have a Elemental Guardian hero with the new Tales of Aria set, Oldhim Grandfather Eternity. So this also goes to show that it doesn't matter what talent you have, if obviously this is from Tales of Aria. Now we all know, if you look at the lore, that Bravo is also from Aria. Obviously he's part of the Everfest Carnival, he's the entertainer. The Everfest Carnival is the carnival that goes through Aria, has all the soothsayers and stuff. So Bravo is part of Aria and is part of the lore of Aria. And it's the same with Oldhim. So I think this set, the Tales of Aria set, confirms what borders basically mean. The borders mean where the character is from in the world of Wraith, in that universe. It doesn't tie them down to class, but it also gives us some insights into what we can potentially see in the future. Because obviously back in Crucible of War, we saw that obviously Kasai the warrior shared a border with Kano. So obviously there's Kasai. If we go back to Arcane Rising, we see that Kano as well had the volcanic-esque border. So what they're saying is we can potentially expect more characters from these sort of areas. The world of Volcor, I believe it's called. So will we see more characters from these sets in the future? And it's the same with the Azalea and the Merchant. They were from the same sort of disgusting looking borders. So there's a lot of questions to be asked about why they're doing this, but I think it's more of a sort of flavour, insight sort of thing to do, which I think is quite cool. It gives us a lot of sort of speculation points that we can speak about and do videos like this about. Yeah, if we look at Lexi here, the new Elemental Ranger, she also shares the same border as Bravo, even though she's a Ranger and she's Elemental. Again, it just goes to show that she is from Aria, and therefore Aria's border is this sort of multicoloured stained glass thing, which back on when we were back to Welcome to Wraith, we didn't have a clue what this would mean. This sort of stained glass window, this stained glass window border. We had no idea what this was. But if we look at in hindsight now, this sort of elemental, not fire, ice, lightning, and earth, it's all entwined in this stained glass. It's all part of these elements in the stained glass. So it's like a mixture of all of these elements. But we didn't have a clue about that when we were playing Bravo and Welcome to Wraith. Bravo was just a standard Guardian hero, but now we have elemental ranges with the same border. So yeah, it's going to be cool to see where they go with this. And if we go down the list again, we've got Elemental Runeblade, which again is exactly the same. Even though it's Elemental Runeblade, it has the same border as Bravo, sheerly because Briar is from Aria. And Aria is actually in Briar's name if you look closely. So yeah, that is pretty much the video. I just wanted to go through what the borders might mean, the speculations behind it, and what we can come to expect really in the future. Because if we look at some of the corner cases there, we've got Kano and Kasai with the volcanic borders. We've got Dash, the only character to share a border with the class cards that are currently available. So I think one of the main sort of speculations that I have is that Dash's Mechanologist class is not actually a class, it's a talent. So when we go back to metrics, we're probably going to see alchemists or other sort of weird steampunky plague doctors, I don't know, loads of different types of talents in metrics. So there's going to be something Mechanologist, there's going to be something alchemist, I imagine, or something along those lines. Maybe not like a dual class, but maybe just another class entirely, or it could be a talent. You know, I'm just spitballing at this point, but you get the idea. But I just wanted to have a chat today with regards to some more speculations and thoughts, and just going through some old cards really with this new sort of graphic that I've made for my streams and videos. So thank you very much for tuning in. What are your thoughts on the borders? Is there anything that I've missed in this video? Leave a comment in the section below, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace.